Good day, my name is Michelle Pinar from the Mandela Mining Precinct, and I've got Nikki and Bruce here from Samira. And we will be discussing breeding earth and innovation. We will try to investigate and maybe have a talk about what's currently happening with our students and who's participating in, I know Nikki, you read something on about within the discipline there's some concerns, so maybe you can...
with the declining student numbers.
Yeah.
Geoscience, declining numbers in geoscience students, or the perceived lack of interest from the youth in geosciences.
Yeah. So maybe, Lucy, I think that, most of the geologists, there's a lack of knowledge of what geologists actually do.
Okay.
And I mean, you're one of the younger ones, so I mean, I think especially with the way things are going, everybody's computer literate, they are all in machine learning, AI. Do you think maybe people have seen there's a bit of a gap there and they think, maybe we just do rocks as geologists, or do you think maybe they're not fully aware of what we do as geos?
I think there's a combination of various factors. I do think the marketing of what geologists does is not as great, even for me in my time. It wasn't as great as, for example, mining engineers. But even more so, even beyond the lack of full understanding of what a geologist does, the geoscience space and what a geologist does on a day-to-day is changed. Geologists are not only based in mining operations or exploration areas, but you find geologists also in banks, you find them in consulting companies, you find them in oil and gas, and even just recently when we attended the African Exploration Showcase, there's a lady that actually came to our stand saying that her issue on recruiting geologists in this day and age is that most geologists do not have data analytics or some form of AI background, which is a bit of a problem. So even companies and consulting companies all around are not looking for pure geologists only, but they're looking for a diverse individual.
Yeah.
So I think, we are at that crux right now. As much as the numbers have decreased, like Nikki had said, due to various factors such as interest and whatnot, but I think the understanding of the fact that you don't only have to work in a mining operation as a geologist is not out there. And students sometimes find themselves in a situation where you've got that degree, you don't know what to do with yourself, you don't know where to apply, you don't know in which doors to knock at. So I think that awareness is very important, and I think hopefully it will come through this podcast.
Yeah. So one of the stuff that I've noticed as well is, especially getting some students or interns in, especially in the mine, they have this perception of, they're going to sit on surface and do modeling and computer analytics and all that stuff. And once they start going underground, they realize, this is not for me, this is dirty, this is hot, this is unpleasant. And we actually lose a lot of people like that as well. Now, when I was, and I'm in Nikki, I'm sure, mining in general has got a very bad annotation as well, especially if you look at, how the communities are affected by mining, the environment. It's got that negative annotation to it as well, especially, and also, if you look at accidents, fatalities, incidents, and I think a lot of people have that association with that as well. So I think a lot of people, either they think, okay, let's do it and let's see how mining is a job. And when they get to it, it's like, And then as well, once, some of them actually don't want to do it because they've got this bad annotation. So now you're more in the exploration field compared to where I'm more mining related. But where I studied, we did more exploration. I was totally put off from exploration, if you think about it, because I do not like spiders or staying in the tent for a while, and that put me totally off from exploration as well. So maybe that's one of the things. So maybe you can just, from your exploration background and obviously you've got the academic side as well.
Yeah, so it's not so much that exploration doesn't necessarily mean that you're actually having to go in the field. Some people want to have a job that doesn't require them to sit behind a desk, and they want to have the opportunity to go to remote places and map places that people don't generally know, which is great for some people who want to be out there. They love the spiders and the so-ons. But from my perspective, I actually did exploration by actually sitting in a laboratory looking at samples under a microscope. So I only once ever worked on a mine site logging core. The rest of my career, since leaving university, has been laboratory based.
Yeah.
Looking at the samples, analyzing, interrogating even sometimes I think of myself as a little bit of a detective.
Yeah.
What can we see? What can we see in the rocks? What is hiding in there? And once we see it, how do we extract it? How does it become important? So one of the things about young people, people want to make the world a better place. That's generally what we all want to do. You speak to a young person, what do you want to do? You either want to make money or you want to make the world a better place. Well, actually, geoscientists have such an important role in making the world a better place. And I think this misinformation that, and maybe it's the dominance of mining. Your mining communities historically are not great places. But there's a lot has changed. And a lot does still need to change. And a geologist can influence the change.
So I mean, I'm doing very cool stuff in my program, as you guys know, and I mean, we're looking at a lot of technologies as well. And a lot of the technologies that we are currently doing is data related, machine learning, AI, and the challenge that we have is we don't have geologists necessarily working on those projects because we don't have. So we have to get in those engineers and mechanical and engineers to come and help us. So I think definitely that annotation, so yeah, it's a bit of a concern that people are not into geology anymore. And I think as well as like a misconception of what geologists do and all that. But I think, like we discussed now, I have a few geologists that's gone on to banking and auditing, risk management. I even know one of my friends that went into real estate. And they were actually selling houses and I try to think of how would a geologist actually add all. But I think it's quite simple if you get that relationship, because if you know the area, you understand the risk, you understand what that property is related to, it actually helps you with that as well. And I can, obviously we are involved with some building and some engineering projects. I mean, I know a few geologists there as well. So I think geology is not only, like I said, mining related, but it's everything else, even weather and, so climate change.
If we understand what the climate was like in the past and how it changed in a geological timescale, and the fact that the environment adapted to changes in the climate, and we can see that from historical records, whether it's just from the drill core from ice deposits, or all the way back to the Archean, which is one of the earliest times on the Earth, where we can see when did organisms start existing, and therefore what was the oxygen level in the climate like? Why at certain times was there mass extinction? Well, if you look at the rocks, you can see, yes, you can find the fossils and they come and go, but you can look in the rocks and they can answer things. What was the climate like? When the dinosaurs were there, they needed a lot of food. The vegetation grew extensively, meant there was a lot of carbon dioxide in the environment. This information is trapped within the rocks, and you can learn it. And the technology, the advanced analytical technology for dating rocks, for using argon dating, uranium-lead dating.
And that has improved quite a lot as well recently.
It has the technology, and that's all linked to AI. Again.
Definitely.
So yes, you need the combination of the engineers and the computer programmers to make the programs, but geologists need to interpret the data from those programs.
One thing I enjoy is pyramids and Egyptians and all that, and if you see how many geologists actually also participate with the archaeologists and all that, and especially if they actually need the geologists, especially with there was some massive event of some tsunami that came through, and I watched the whole thing on Discovery the other day, how they actually had divers, that geologists as divers going down to actually try to identify where this area was, where all this big event happened. So I would actually just like to explore to the audience that geology is not limited. It's got such a wide field, and it's got such a variety of areas and disciplines actually within geology, and some of the stuff is actually very exciting. So as Nikki has said as well, we're all explorers in some way. And some of us don't like, the horse, and some of the other ones don't like crawling in dirty, dark places. But if you have an interest in actually trying to find our solutions, I think definitely that is one area to investigate and for the youngsters to actually look into. And I think, yeah, I'm sure that's
I just want to add to that, if I may, Michelle,
Yeah.
that geoscientists can help produce fertilizers,
yeah,
which is for zero hunger, for food. So if you're worried about, even in the agricultural space, where's your fertilizer coming from? Well, most fertilizers are made from raw materials. Well, how are we getting that? A lot of fertilizers, organizations, petrochemical companies are making fertilizers, again, coming from oil or gas or coal, as in the case,
yeah.
and the phosphate mining.
Yeah. So I just want to touch on that one because there's an interesting one that I know we're also doing quite a lot of research in South Africa about using your wastage or your mine wastage dumps and what animals can actually, so that there's also done about getting, certain animals like cows and stuff eat certain grasses. And they're busy studying what grasses actually grows in certain rocks or certain soil.
Yes.
And they need to understand what rocks or what's the soil and what minerals are in the soil to be able to have it grow for us to have our different animals and even your different food stuff to grow as well. So I definitely think in that I think there's a big opportunity for geologists to get into as well.
There was, it just reminded me when you're talking about rocks and vegetation, I once listened to a presentation where it was linking a traditional story about that lightning always hits one side of a hill and you couldn't live there. They then traced it to a plant that was attracting the lightning, but it was because the rocks the plant was living on absorbed that material. So this study involved the biologists, the traditional, the people telling the traditional stories, and the geologists. And they got to the most remarkable scientific conclusion that actually gave the basis for the traditional story. It just provided the science. So it's fascinating where you can find applications of geosciences.
Yeah, so I think definitely for those listening, and again to remind them just to just, even if you just use Mr. Google and just Google something and you'll see that it's related to geology or geosciences. So I would like to thank Nikki and Lucy for this nice engagement, and I would like to encourage everybody watching to stay tuned for our next episode, and have a great day.